Hey everyone, today we are going to be talking about one-point perspective, what one-point perspective is, how to use one-point perspective in our drawings, and why we would even want to use one-point perspective in our drawings in the first place. So in order to understand how to draw in one-point perspective, we first have to understand what one-point perspective even is and why we would even want to use it in our drawings. So by definition, one-point perspective is a drawing that has only one vanishing point that sits on the horizon line. This type of perspective is usually used for images of roads, hallways, railroad tracks, or buildings that are viewed so that the front is directly facing the viewer and the parallel lines converge at the vanishing point. So, in real world terms, what that means is if you are standing on one side of the hallway and you're looking down at the very end of the other side of the hallway, it's how those lines converge to the end so that things are closer to you where they appear, but they recede further back into space and eventually meet at one point. Or if you're standing on railroad tracks, don't do that at home, and you're looking directly down the line of the railroad tracks and you can see that eventually the railroad tracks, the lines of the railroad tracks meet to a point. That is what one-point perspective is, and that is the perspective that you are looking at. So in order to do this, there's a couple of things that we need to know and understand. Number one is we need to know and understand what a horizon line is. You guys already know what a horizon line is. It's that line where the sky meets the ground. So a perfect example of a horizon line is if you're standing on the beach and you're looking directly out into the ocean and you can see that really clear line of where the sky meets the ocean. That's your horizon line. Then our vanishing point is an invisible point that sits on the line where all of our lines to our objects in one-point perspective meet. That point is the most important part of one-point perspective because it quite literally is the one point. So I'm going to show you as practice how to do this. Now, luckily for us, our project is going to be an abstract version of one-point perspective. So we're not accurately drawing buildings on a road, and we're not accurately drawing a hallway or accurately drawing a railroad track, but we are trying to turn two-dimensional shapes into three-dimensional shapes by using one-point perspective. So here is what we need and what we need to do. Okay, so this is a practice paper and it looks pretty similar to what your project is going to look like, just a very simplified version. Okay, so on this practice paper you can see that there is a horizon line, which is that line that goes directly across the middle of the paper, and your vanishing point, which is that dot in the middle that all of our lines are going to converge back to. So to do this, we need a pencil, we need an eraser in case we make mistakes, and most importantly, we need a ruler. Now you need a ruler because you need to draw perfectly straight lines, and this is a very, very helpful tool to do that. We're not measuring anything with the ruler, we're just using it to draw straight lines. Okay, so each of these is just a rectangular shape right now. Now the goal is to turn the rectangular shape into a three-dimensional shape or form by receding it back to this vanishing point and putting it in one-point perspective. So how you do this is, first, you pick a shape that you want to do first, and then we need to draw lines from the three closest points to the vanishing point back to the vanishing point, and we use our ruler to do that. So you just line up with the ruler of each point back to the vanishing point and draw a line. So I have one point, this is my second one, and the third. So you do not need to draw it from the furthest corner to the vanishing point. It's only from the three closest corners of the shape back to the vanishing point. So from here, that's our first step. Step one is done. Now we only have a couple more steps left after this. First, you need to decide how far back you want your shape to go. So in our case, let's say I want it to go about that far back. So I want to line the ruler up. Now you want the line to be parallel with this top line of your shape right here. What that means is that it needs to be just as horizontally straight as that line, and it should not be diagonal to that line. It is parallel to that line. So we first draw a line parallel. Voila, we have the top. So I can now erase the lines that I don't need going back to the vanishing point. And now I want to do the side of my shape. So again, you want it to be now parallel to the side of your shape. So I line up my ruler from the corner of the top that I just drew, and then draw a line parallel. Erase the lines I no longer need, and I'm going to erase those lines I showed you with. And I have now this 3D box that is vanishing back to this one point in the space. So I'm going to show you this one more time with this. So I'm going to start by putting my lines from my 3 closest corners of the shape back to the vanishing point. So I just line it up with the ruler. Make sure the ruler lines up with the corner and the point before you draw your line. Decide how far back you want your building to go, or your shape to go. Draw a parallel line to the top line, then a parallel line from that corner to the side line, and erase your lines that you just used to help you. Go back to the vanishing point, and again, now you have a 3-dimensional form that is in space going back to that one vanishing point.